Hi, welcome to an overview of JustWare 6.0. Except for in this fact, it's actually 6.1 as we've had that recent update. So this version of JustWare looks vastly different than your version of 5.11 or previous versions of JustWare. The image itself, the colors are different, the setup is different, and that's why we wanted to provide this video and make it accessible to you. The first difference you're going to note is we have this JustWare box, this JustWare 6 box that pops up whenever you initially log into JustWare. It's going to give you a couple of different options. You can create new cases from this page, you can create new names from this page, and you can do some searching inside of JustWare itself. We'll get more into searches later. There's also a listing of your recent activity. I previously had opened these cases as well as the Carson Cook name record. You can still see that we have a logo there to differentiate between cases, which are these, and name records, so that's helpful. And if you think this little pop-up is annoying every time you log into JustWare, you can simply check the Do Not Show on Startup and close the tab. So this is my start screen inside of JustWare 6.1. It has the exact same setup. For those of you familiar with JWML, that is all still the same. However your startup screen looks now, it will continue to look, except for, there's nothing along the left-hand side like we had previously had in 5.11 and the previous versions. Now everything's been moved up and categorized into these 5 headings. But while we're looking at this, you'll see that I still have my calendar, which is the report that is custom for me, as well as my active cases by status. This is a view that I use when I first log in. I still have my name at the top. The agency is still listed where it was, as is the current date. At the top, I have a refresh session if I wanted to do that. And then to the right, I have my JustWare. Now, if I click on this, you can see I have a bunch of different views. These are all of the different views that I have for a start screen. This will change as I go into cases and name records. But just remember that when you previously on the left side of your screen, you had views to change. If you were doing e-discovery or online documents, or if you just had different views you used for different people in your office, they're now at this top right instead of off to the left, which is great because they're not taking up a bunch of landscape there inside of a button. All right, we have a home button that's going to bring me here. This is another spot to do searches, and again, we'll get into searches later. Then at the top, I have my file button where, another place I can refresh sessions. I can show that startup screen if I had previously clicked Do Not Show on Startup and I realized later I wanted it. So I can uncheck it and get closed there. But we have a few options in the file. Here is in searches, a bunch more searches, which were all those custom or advanced searches that you had previously on the left side of the screen. They are now here. And then help is actually exactly the same as it was before. You have all your user guides, both the web versions and the printable versions. And we now have a link that'll take you to the Journal Technologies website, and you still have the same button to tell you what version of JustWare you are on. Okay, so now we have these tabs at the top, these headers: cases, names, reports, tools, and admin. Now when it comes time to open up cases or names, we have to do a search. So we'll talk a little bit about that now. At this top right button, we can search from here, or we can click on this tab, which is always here, and search here. Now, a major difference from 5.11 and the previous versions is we can do a quick search on either one of these. But when we do it, so I'm gonna search for Carson Cook, because I know he's in my system. You'll see right now it's only searching cases. So if I hit enter, it's bringing up the 2 cases he's on. Now, if I told myself, oh man, I meant to open only name records, I can click names. I don't have to retype in his name, and it will pull up the name record. The same for documents if you have document searching enabled. So cases, if I go in here and I say, okay, well, he's got multiple cases, and I can expand the involved people on each of these cases if I'd like. Now, what's wonderful about this is it keeps everything organized very cleanly. So there's not as much confusion about cases and name records when conducting searches. The involved parties as well as the cases are hyperlinked. So if I click on this name record of Homer Simpson, it will open him up. His name record will show up. Now if I go and open up, if I go back into the search and we click on the case itself, and we'll do Darth Vader and the Honey Badger because that's a classic case, you'll see that we now have this case open. What you'll also notice is that we no longer have cases and names intermingled as tabs across the top of your screen. So if I open a few of these cases, let's open up the other one. All right, and then we'll go in and let's do a search for names again. And the same feature exists where instead of dropping down who's involved on the case, I can drop down which cases he's on. But let's say I want to open up a couple of other name records, all right? So I'm gonna do Sean on here, see what we get. There's Sean Crook. If I click that, that'll open him up. His name record will be open. And then let's do, why not? Let's do Carson Cook, and we'll open up his name record as well. All right, now as you've noted, I don't have cases intermingled with these. I only have name records. And that's because we're under names, and you'll see it also has a 3 next to it to tell you how many name records you currently have open. If I click on cases, it'll take us over to the cases that we already have open. One of the best features, in my opinion, of the upgrade to 6.0 or 6.1, which I'm demonstrating now, is in the search, I already have Carson open, as we see. His name record's already open. If I go back to the search and I click his name record again, it brings me to the tab that's already been opened, rather than duplicating the tab and having multiple tabs across the top, which all belong to the same name record. This reduces user error, and it's just a cleaner way to process the data. So let's dig into these cases and name records a little bit more before we move too much more forward. The essential build of the cases is exactly as it was before. If your view was, as mine is now, tab details, it would look like this screen. If you're using a different view and that's your defaulted screen, it'll look like that. So whatever it looked like in 5.11 or the previous versions of JustWare, it will continue to look like in the updated version. And I hope that makes sense. So the writing on the left side, or the links on the left side of the screen have been moved up top, but the part of the screen, the part of the view that you used previously as the major part of your screen will still be the same. So I have, in this case, I have the case information, type, status, all of those types of things in this banner, as well as my tabs that I had previously, and the tabs below. So if I was using events and correspondence, I would still go to the exact same links that I had previously. So I guess the learning curve is not too bad when you really start looking at this new updated system. And that would be the same for name records. So name record, I have all the information at the top. I have these tabs that are exactly the same as they were previously, in the same order, with the same dialed down tabs beneath it. Again, I'd like to point out that from here we can edit information. Off to the right, there's an edit to edit the name record. So here we can do name types, and we can add a lot of information that we didn't have. This is where we would add driver's license numbers, race, eye color, hair color, height, weight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we also have the views at the top, which I told you change depending upon whether you're on a home screen, a case screen, a name screen, whatever it is. And so I hopefully have a lot more views than you do in your system. Since this one is for training, we kind of have everything in here. So I can change these if I'd like. So if I change this to, let's just change it to case involvements real quick. I explain views, which is what this is, in a way that is this, I guess. I'm struggling to say this correctly. It's the same information on a name record, no matter which view you're on. The difference is that the view will boil down or narrow down the information that you want to see. So the information all still exists, as it does in the tab details view, but is narrowed down. So here, I don't have my filing cabinet, I don't have financial information. The only thing I have in this particular view of case involvements is case involvements. And so hopefully that makes sense. And you can play with these in your system as you go, assuming that you have the right to, which I don't get to decide for you. All right, so that's how the name records work. Everything's still in the same shape and place that it was previously. We do have now at the top a save name, refresh session, and then a more tab. So I can click on that and you can see the save and close, delete name, merge name. You can do a Google search from here, which is awesome. So I would search for that, but I think we'd get Carson's Facebook page, and nobody wants to see that, so we're not going to click on it. If we go into cases, you'll see that the changes, automatically occur. Same kind of thing. This is where we can delete cases, merge cases, copy cases. So all the same functionality you had previously, you still have. I'd also like to point out that the hot buttons still work. So Control S still works. Control or F5, excuse me, still refreshes. And so all those hot buttons or hot keys, those all still work. All right, so I think that we've looked adequately enough at cases and name records. I guess the other thing I haven't pointed out with these that I should, so immediately going back on what I just said, there's a drop-down menu next to each one of these categories. So from here, I can create new cases, which is kind of important. You can also see that all of the cases I currently have open will pull right here. And so you don't have to click, to name records and then go to Sean Crook. If we were in cases, you could just go, to that drop down to Sean Crook and click on it and it would open it up. Also, whatever screen you were on last under that category will still be the screen if you click back to cases. So if I am in Darth Vader and I go back over to the name record and I'm working with Homer, and then I'm like, I gotta go back to that case real quick, and I click cases, Darth Vader is still here, which is helpful. So that's cases and names. Then we're to reports. Reports has the drop down just like cases and names. So from here you can do the landing page and you can launch the report builder. Now it's at this junction that I'll tell you, you may not have rights for some of the things I'm going to provide a quick overview to. And that's okay. Depending upon your role and your function and your position, you may or may not have the need to be able to do some of this stuff. If I click on the reports tab itself, it brings me to this landing page. And from here, we have a whole new set of tabs that can go across the top, which are not intermingled with names or cases. So let's say I want to open up a couple of these reports, and I'll do case notes. And this one, of course, I'd have to put in a case ID, which we don't really care that much about for these purposes. And I'll just open another one of these, my active events. So I now have the reports landing page, the case notes report, and the my active events report open. If I go into a name record, I can do the exact same thing that we previously looked at with cases. So if I click here, you can see the two reports that I have open already. So if I want to jump back into my active events, I can. Or if you have access and want to do it, you can launch the report builder, which I'm not going to get into in this video. One small difference between the reports tabs and the case and name records tabs is I can open the same report multiple times. So I opened the My Active Events already. If I click on this again, it will not take me to the same tab, but it will open up another tab. And the reason for this is reports can be ran in a multitude of different ways based upon parameter, right? So if I'm under case notes and I put in the case ID for the Vader case, and then I clicked View Report, and then I wanted to open up a case notes tab for the Homer Simpson case, I could do the exact same thing, and then we just have multiple tabs of the same report, but being ran in different ways. And that's nice for being able to look at multiple pieces of information, quickly. So I'm going to close these because I really don't have any need of these, and that's basically it for reports. Everything else is the same. The way that you have your reports saved in your system, the way that you gain access to them is the same. And so it's pretty nifty. To close any one of these tabs, you can click the X, or if you're on, it, you can right-click it and close. You can also open that back up. I can right-click and close other sessions in the same section. So to close these two that I'm not clicking on, I can close all sessions from here. If I close all sessions, they're all gone, as well as the cases and names. So closing all sessions will close out everything across the board. The screen that says, the right-click and the menu that says close other items in this section except for this would just close the other reports. Hopefully that makes sense. We then move to tools. There's a tools landing page, There's also an admin landing page, and I'm just showing you that these work much like the case and name records tabs, and you have the drop-down menu next to each. So this just takes us to the landing page, which we're on currently. And then there's a couple of other options like enabling wildcard search, enabling the SoundX name search, and resetting current session settings. Session settings, that's like a tongue twister. Under the tools landing page, I have basic setup, case tools, name tools, docket tools, document tools, and accounting tools. I actually feel like this setup is way more user-friendly and logical than it was in previous versions of JustWare. If I know that I need to make a change to a case type, as an example, I click on my tools, I can go to case tools. All right, so if I needed to reassign all of the cases from, an attorney who maybe is retiring to one that's coming on board, or potentially a judge, anything like that, then I can click the case reassignment tool, and I can transfer over anyone's cases to anyone else that you want to transfer all these cases to. And so it's a good way of reassigning large quantities of cases rather than having to go through them one by one. So you can see that we have some different options. I'm not going to go through all of the information on tools because that's more of an administrative video tutorial. And so I just want you to see that as we go through this, we have a lot of different options and tools, and this one's tools, to allow us to make changes or to better utilize JustWare. And I think that it's in a more logical format. So I guess you can argue with me about that later if you'd like. Let's go to admin real quick. So the admin landing page, which many people don't have access to as you're looking at the upgrade and training and figuring out how your new system works. But it does give us a lot of different functions. It works exactly as it did previously, but things are just organized in a more clear way, to me at least. So if I want to change security permissions to different people, I can do that in account management. If I need to add case types, I can go to case setup, and it's going to open up tabs just like we have done with cases, names, and reports. And from this case setup, the screen looks exactly like it did in previous administration when you were in a 5.11 version or a previous version. I can still save, I can still refresh. I'm going to close this. But you can see this is where all of the administrative tools reside. Anyway, I think that it's more logical. I hope that you do too. And that's it for our overview of 6.0/6.1. I'm just in the habit of saying 6.0. I hope that this made sense. If you need further training or you have questions, please reach out to our support department or your account manager if you know who he or she is. Have a wonderful day.